had to make some changes in my life. But change is hard. Have you ever had that 2 a.m. haunt where you lie in bed, eyes wide open, tossing and turning, feeling like you're chasing the shadows of who you want to be? I have. My mind would ping pong. I think I need to leave my business. I'm not happy. And then I think, you know what, I better stay. And then I think, what am I going to spend the next 40 years of my life waking up unfulfilled? Having lost my dad, I knew that sounded insane. What dreams do you have that are still haunting you? Dreams you may have buried long ago that are sitting there just below the surface. Those dreams, they are not going to disappear. The longer you wait, unfortunately, the worse you will feel. I remember one day in frustration venting to my best friend David. I said to him, dude, I'm not happy. I want to make a change. But David told me I'd be crazy to leave what I had, that I was living the dream. I thought maybe he was right. Just like my dad, someday I'd sell my company, and then someday I'd start finally pursuing the life most important to me. But not today, right? So convinced that someday I'd do it all, I stayed. And unfortunately, it wasn't just my professional life where I struggled to make the changes that mattered most to me. It was also my personal life. I need to tell you about a girl named Emily. So, when I was in the 4th grade, a girl named Emily kissed me on the cheek. And I fell in love instantly. But like any good middle school love story, about 5 minutes later, Emily dumped me. They say you're never supposed to remain friends with an ex, but we were 10 years old, so we decided, what the heck. Now, going into the 11th grade, about a week before school was supposed to start, Emily sent me a text letting me know that she was going to be switching schools. I was determined because that kiss left some impression in the 4th grade, and I knew I had to get creative and do something quickly. So that night, when I got home, I told my mom, listen, Mom, I know school starts in a week, and this might sound crazy, but please, 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 can I please switch schools? Oh, and by the way, my friend Emily's switching schools too. My mom, being the lovely woman she was, let me. So going to the 11th grade, about a week before school was supposed to start, I followed Emily and I switched schools. Ironically, when I showed up to school, Emily had a boyfriend, and about a week later I started dating a different girl, and from that point forward, we sort of started to naturally drift apart. After high school, we both went to colleges in different states, and we really lost touch. About a year after graduating from college, I started volunteering for a nonprofit camp that happened once a summer. And I went, I had an amazing experience, and I wanted to recruit some friends. So I reached out to Emily, and mind you, it had been a few years since I last spoke to her, and I asked her if she wanted to come to this nonprofit camp a year from now. She agreed. And I hadn't seen her in a while, but when she showed up to this nonprofit camp, I just felt this feeling in my heart. She had this amazing smile. I so wanted her to be my girlfriend. I just needed to tell her how I felt. Sorry. We're finally back in each other's lives, and we're both living in Manhattan now that she went to this camp, and we're both living in Manhattan, and every couple of months we'd go on one of these friend dates. And to me, definitely kind of more a date, but to her, definitely just a friend date. And every time we'd go on one of these friend dates, I'd tell my guy friends, listen, tonight's gonna be the night. I'm gonna finally tell her how I feel. Emily and I would have the best time, laughing, smiling, flirting, and then at the end of the meal, I'd bite my tongue. I think, what if she rejected me and it ruined our friendship forever? Or what if she didn't and I wasn't ready for it? Have you ever had that moment of crippling fear and doubt where you know exactly what you want, but you're terrified to take that first step? I have. Fear held me back for years. And I became a broken record, telling my guy friends, tonight's going to be the night. Only to come home disappointed that yet again, I didn't say anything. My best friend David, that guy from earlier, he told me, dude, you are so deep in the friend zone. It is time to move on. And move on is pretty much exactly what I did. About 4 years went by as I watched Emily pass me by. I stayed in a business that no longer served me, and it was tough. I went home to visit my mom, and I was just excited to catch up and be there with her. I'm sitting downstairs on a couch waiting for her to come in, and she walks. She's wearing a big baggy green sweatshirt, orange sweats, and she sits down on the couch next to me and she grabs my hands. And she said, I have to talk to you about something. She said, I have cancer. Wow. I couldn't even grasp the words that just came out of her mouth. Only 5 years earlier, my dad had passed away from cancer, and I knew a long road was ahead. But despite the news, something beautiful happened. For the next 2 months, as my mom was in the hospital, she'd share these bits of gold with me. She'd say things like, life is hard, it's not fair, and life is glorious, so find your glory. She'd say, it's okay to not be okay today, but don't let this moment define you. Let it guide you. And she'd say, you have to decide the life you want to live, no matter what punches life throws your way. You know, for years I had this beautiful, defined, holistically successful life on paper. I did what I asked you to do in that section 1 of that worksheet of defining this beautiful life, of defining my successful life and defining each category, but I was terrified to take that first step. Once my mom was diagnosed, I became so hyper-aware to how fragile life is. That each day alive is a gift and not a guarantee. And I started to think about what I believe is one of the most powerful and profound questions that I think we all must ask ourselves, which is knowing our time is limited, knowing tomorrow is not guaranteed. How and where do we want to spend our limited time? And with whom? On the back of the worksheet, you'll see section 2. And I'd love if you could just take a minute. There are some questions there to help you think about your relationship, your own relationship with time. And perhaps many of you have already done something like this, but I'd love if you can just answer some of those prompts and see what comes out from thinking about your own relationship with time. So for me, as I started to sit with this question, I realized that there was no guarantee that I'd have tomorrow, there was no guarantee that I'd have next month or next year. And I realized that I had to tell Emily how I felt. From the second my mom was in the hospital, Emily was by my side. And I knew that I needed to tell her how I felt today and not wait for someday. So after a long day in the hospital, Emily and I went for dinner at one of our favorite spots. And we're sitting there eating dinner, and I'm thinking, okay, towards the end of the meal, thinking, I need to tell her, now's the time, I gotta open my mouth. And then Emily said ice cream, and I thought, oh my God, yes, anything to buy myself just a little bit more time. So we get ice cream, and as we're walking back to her apartment, Emily is just chatting away, and I'm just hearing noise. I'm tuning out the conversation as I'm nervously thinking about, I gotta finally do it. I'm nervously thinking about, this is the time. And as we get to her front door, she goes to give me a hug goodnight, and I take a step back. And I said, Emily, I know this might be out of the blue, but I'm just curious. Is there a world where you see us as more than just friends? Emily, caught completely off guard, lets out this nervous giggle, and she says, I don't know, maybe? Why are you asking? Equally surprised by the words that just came out of my mouth, I said, I don't know, just curious. Emily made it clear she wanted to be there for me as a friend. So we hugged goodnight. She went upstairs and I started walking home. And the second I got off her block, I phoned one of my best friends and I said, dude, I did it. I finally told Emily. He said, amazing. What did you tell her? I said, I asked her if she saw us as more than just friends. And he said, yes, but what did you tell her? Click. And it was in that moment I realized I actually hadn't told her anything at all. So the next night I made plans to go back over her apartment, and when I got there, I just unleashed everything I'd been holding in for years. I said, Emily, I know I have a lot going on right now with my mom, but I want you to know I've always cared about you more than anyone in the entire world. And I'm not saying to date me next week, or next month, or even next year. I just can't imagine a future where we don't at least give it a shot. This time, I finally did it. Emily made it clear that she still wanted to remain friends, and we could worry about the rest later. So the next day I went to the hospital, and I told my mom that I finally confessed my feelings to Emily. Despite being sick and weak, my mom smiled so big, and she promised she'd come around. She said, just be patient. Understanding the fragility in life gave me the courage I needed to tell Emily how I felt. About a week later, my mom passed away. And shortly after that, Emily and I kissed for the first time. And today, I'm married to Emily. My mom's death taught me that our time is limited. That while we can't control how much time we have, we can control how and where we choose to spend our limited time. And that should create in you, in us, a sense of urgency to prioritize what matters most, because our lives are now. You know, often I think back to my dad and the bedtime stories that he'd tell me growing up about his own what-ifs, and I realize how easy it is for your dreams to slip away, to think that we're going to have more time to do the things that matter to us, to do it tomorrow, to do it someday. And sometimes it's that we don't have the awareness around what really matters to us. And other times it's that we just don't have the courage to take that first step. And if you feel that way, I want you to know that you are not alone. Best-selling author and palliative care expert Bronnie Ware studied the top regrets of the dying. And she found the single biggest regret is this: I wish I had the courage to live the life I really wanted. So many of us settle for a life of practicality, telling ourselves someday we'll do all the things we really want. But then someday becomes what if, which turns into I wish I had. Your what if might be different than mine. Yours might be, what if I put my happiness first for a change? Yours might be, what if I took that trip with my kids? Or yours might also be, what if I asked her out? She's out of your league, ask her out anyway. But I want you to know that your what ifs are possible. In fact, they're necessary to building the life you want. You know, earlier today you defined what success looked like to you. You infused some urgency into the things that are most important. And on the last worksheet, on section 3, I'd love if you can all make a commitment today, with me today, to define 3 of your own what ifs. 3 things that you want to commit to doing this year, to making them a reality. So you could just take a minute to fill in the 3 what ifs at the bottom of section 3. Grief can be an incredibly powerful teacher. Grief can show you what matters most to you. Grief can show you how and where you need to prioritize your time. I appreciate all of you coming along my grief journey today and hearing some of the stories and some of the way that grief has shaped me. If there's anything I want you to remember from this presentation today, it is my 3 key lessons that I learned as a result of my grief journey. Number 1, get intentional about your successful life. You really do have agency to define what success looks like to you and to align your choices to go and live your successful life. Number 2, understand how, where, and with whom you want to spend your limited time. Your time is your most valuable resource. Everyone in here knows that. So define how you're going to spend it, with whom you're going to spend it, and go and do that. And number 3, urgently make the space and prioritize the things that are most important to you. Today I shared 2 big things that for me required feats of courage. But they don't always have to require feats of courage. Sometimes it's just about having the awareness and defining how you want to spend your time. Family is important to you? Make Saturdays a family day where each Saturday, that's family time. Surfing is important to you? Make surfing a priority. Whatever it is to you, define it and urgently make the space. I want to leave all of you with a challenge. I challenge you to stop waiting, to start living, to lean into your what ifs and to courageously live the life you want someday, today. My mom was right. Life is full of good and bad things. Life is hard. It's unfair. And life is glorious. So find your glory. And when life does knock you down again, because it likely will, have the courage to get back up. Silence the dream killers that tell you you're not good enough or that you don't have what it takes. Because at the end of the day, my dad was also right. You can do anything. Thank you.
your story about what you were trying to make a priority, but I'm not going to do that. We'll share that on the closing. Had a little fun in the front row with that. Okay, so obviously I want to thank you for that. It was awesome. We also need to just take a moment and recognize a few of our sponsors who have made it possible for us to be here today. Obviously, Streamlight Flashlights, they sponsor us with everything cops. They're amazing. They've been with us forever. If you don't know a Streamlight, you need to. Our Warrior sponsor is Rally North America, an amazing road race that goes, it's not even a race, a road journey rally that goes through the parts of the country every year. They raise an amazing amount of money for cops and other amazing charities. So thank you for Rally North America. Glock, the best handguns you can carry. They're awesome. It's our Peacekeeper sponsor. Our Defender sponsor is Justice Federal Credit Union. I think probably Judy is out there. If she's not in here right now, she's out at the exhibit hall. Please stop by and visit Judy. Our Blue Family Barbecue we're going to have tomorrow night is going to be cooked by TMPA. That's the Texas Municipal Police Association. They're amazing. Yeah, they're going to come. And Financial Cop, Nick, who's here, who's going to be teaching 2 classes here this weekend. And I can tell you, if you look at a financial class and you go, oh gosh, that's boring, I don't want to go to a financial class, I'm telling you, this class can change lives. Like if you can choose that class, you will really be, you will not be disappointed that you went to his class. He's a dynamic speaker and he supports cops and he supports law enforcement across the country and making really good decisions with their finances. So Nick is awesome. He's here and he's sponsored